Arav stood outside the old diner with sweaty hands and a nervous heart. It was supposed to be the biggest day of his life, his first date with Sarah. But instead of feeling excited, he felt something strange in his chest. The diner in front of him looked old, dark, and almost forgotten. The signboard flickered like a dying light bulb, and the windows were covered with dust. He checked his phone again. 6:58 p.m. 2 minutes before she arrived, Arav looked inside the diner. There were only 3 people sitting inside, an old couple in silence, and one strange man at the corner table. The man's face was hidden behind a cap, and he stared at the door without blinking. The waiter behind the counter looked tired and gave Arav a weak smile. Arav forced a smile back. He knew he could not afford a fancy restaurant. Not tonight, not ever. His job at a delivery company didn't pay enough, but he also didn't want to cancel the date. So he chose this place, the cheapest diner in the area. It wasn't perfect, but it had memories, and memories mattered more to him than money. Just then, a car stopped near the diner. Arav's heart skipped a beat. Sarah stepped out, wearing jeans, a simple top, and a bright smile that could make anyone forget their worries. Arav waved nervously. She waved back and walked toward him, but the moment she reached the door, her smile slowly faded. "Arav, this place?" she asked softly. Arav swallowed. "Yeah, I thought it would be quiet here." He didn't explain the real reason. He was afraid she would laugh or think he was cheap. Sarah looked around. The wind blew hard, pushing the old diner sign back and forth, making a creepy sound. "It feels strange," she whispered. They stepped inside. The moment the door closed, the lights flickered twice. The strange man in the corner turned his head very slowly toward them. His eyes were cold and sharp, like he was studying them. Sarah held her bag tightly. Arav tried to ignore everything. "Let's sit," he said with a smile that didn't feel real. They took a table near the window. The waiter walked toward them without saying a word. He placed 2 glasses of water on the table, but his hands were shaking slightly. "Everything okay?" Arav asked him politely. The waiter froze for a second, then nodded. "Yes. Just a long day." But something about his voice didn't sound normal. Something about this whole place didn't feel normal. Arav tried to start a normal conversation with Sarah, but she kept looking around. Her eyes stayed fixed on the strange man in the corner. "Arav," she whispered. "I think he is watching us." Arav glanced at the man. He quickly looked away. No, maybe he's just bored." Sarah didn't seem convinced. Suddenly the lights went off. For 2 long seconds, there was only darkness. Complete silence. No voices, no movement. Just darkness. When the lights came back, Sarah gasped. The strange man was no longer sitting in the corner. Arav felt a chill run down his spine. "Maybe he went to the bathroom," he tried to say, but even his voice trembled. Sarah leaned closer. "Arav, I heard things about this diner. My sister told me once. Something bad happened here years ago." Arav's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" Before she could answer, something moved outside the window. Sarah looked up first, and her face turned white. Someone was standing outside. Right next to the glass, a dark figure, not moving, not blinking, just staring at them. Arav's heart stopped for a moment. Who was he? Was he the same man who was sitting in the corner? Why was he watching them? Sarah whispered Arav. "Let's leave. Something is wrong here." The figure slowly raised a hand and placed it on the window, leaving a long print on the dusty glass. Arav froze. Sarah grabbed his arm. Their first date had just begun. But something dangerous had already entered the night. Arav's hands turned cold as the figure, outside the window, slowly dragged his palm across the glass. A soft, screeching sound filled the diner, like nails scratching on metal. Sarah's breath shook. Arav looked around for the waiter, but he had disappeared into the kitchen. The only sound was the old fan spinning above them. Arav swallowed hard and tried to stay calm. "Sarah, maybe he's just some drunk man. Maybe he needs help." Sarah shook her head slowly. "No, Arav. That is not a drunk man. Look at him. He's not even breathing normally. The figure outside stood completely still, like a statue. His face was hidden in the shadows. Only the shape of his body was visible, tall, stiff, and strangely familiar. It felt like he had been waiting for someone. Waiting for them, Arav tried to gather courage. Let's ignore him. Let's just order something. Maybe he'll go away. But before he could pick up the menu, Sarah's phone buzzed. A message appeared on her screen. Her eyes widened. Arav leaned closer. What happened? Sarah showed him the message. Leave the diner now. No name. No number. Just those 4 words. It felt like the message came from nowhere. Arav tried to laugh nervously. Maybe your friends are joking? Sarah shook her head. My friends don't know I'm here. Only my sister knew. And she warned me about something. Arav froze. This was the second time she mentioned her sister tonight. He leaned forward. Sarah. What did she tell you? Sarah closed her eyes for a moment, as if gathering strength. 3 months ago, my sister came to this diner with someone. After that night, she changed. Arav felt a chill. Changed. How? Sarah looked directly into his eyes. She came home shaking. She didn't talk for 2 days. When she finally spoke, she said someone followed them from this diner. She said the place felt cursed, and she begged me never to come here. Arav felt guilt tightening around his chest. He had no idea. Why didn't you tell me earlier? He whispered. I didn't want to overreact. I thought maybe she imagined it. But now, she looked toward the window again. The figure was still there. Arav stood up suddenly. I'm going to talk to him. Sarah grabbed his arm quickly. No, don't go outside. Arav took a deep breath. We can't just sit here scared. He walked slowly toward the window. The figure didn't move. Arav's reflection mixed with the dark shape behind the glass. He raised his hand and tapped the window softly. Nothing. The figure didn't even flinch. Arav tapped again, a little louder. Hey, do you need something? Slowly, very slowly. The figure lifted his head. For the first time, Arav saw part of his face. A scar across the cheek. Dark eyes, cold eyes, eyes filled with anger. Arav stepped back. Just then, the diner door suddenly opened from behind him, making a loud creak. Arav turned around quickly. The waiter came out of the kitchen, pale and shaking. Both of you, the waiter said with a trembling voice. You should leave now. Sarah stood up immediately. Why? Who is that man? The waiter's lips shook. I can't say, but he came here before. Years ago, and when he comes, something bad always happens. Arav felt his stomach drop. What happened last time? The waiter hesitated, then whispered, Someone disappeared. The lights flickered again. Outside, the figure stepped closer to the glass. Arav felt Sarah's hand on his sleeve. Please, let's go. This place is not safe. Arav wanted to leave, but something inside him kept pulling him backward. He still couldn't understand why Sarah's sister was terrified of this place. What happened that night? Who was the man watching them? The figure raised his hand again and tapped the window twice. Tap. Tap. Each tap felt like a warning. Or a message. The night was no longer a normal date. It had turned into something darker. Something they were not prepared for, and the truth was only beginning to reveal itself. Arav stood frozen near the window as the mysterious figure slowly lowered his hand from the glass. The sound of his fingers sliding off the dusty surface sent a cold shiver through the entire diner. Sarah held her breath, gripping her bag so tightly that her knuckles turned white. The waiter watched the window with terrified eyes. He shouldn't be here, he whispered. Not again. Arav turned toward him. Who is he? Why is he watching us? The waiter's eyes moved from Arav to Sarah, then back to the window. I can't say too much. If he sees me talking, things will get worse. Sarah stepped forward. My sister came here before. With someone. She told me she saw something dangerous. Is this the same man? The waiter didn't answer, but the way his face tightened told them enough. Arav glanced outside again. The figure was gone, just vanished. He felt his heart stop for a moment. Where did he go? Sarah looked around in panic. Arav. What if he's inside now? The diner suddenly felt too quiet, too empty. The old couple who were sitting earlier had quietly left. The corner where the strange man sat was still dark, like the shadow itself refused to move. Arav took a deep breath. Let's just leave. Before they could move, Sarah's phone buzzed again. Another message. This time, 5 words. He is not outside anymore. Sarah's face went pale instantly. Arav. Who is sending these messages? Arav shook his head. Maybe your sister? Maybe she is warning us. No, Sarah whispered. My sister stopped using this number 2 weeks ago. She said she kept getting strange calls from unknown people. She even changed her phone. Arav felt his stomach twist. He looked at the waiter again. Tell us what's going on, please. The waiter hesitated, then slowly locked the front door and turned the sign to closed. He took a deep breath and motioned for them to sit. Arav and Sarah sat down slowly, their hearts racing. The waiter sat opposite them, hands trembling. What I'm about to say? You won't believe it, but you must listen. Arav nodded. The waiter wiped sweat from his forehead. 3 years ago, a woman came here with her boyfriend. They sat exactly where you two are sitting now. Sarah leaned forward. My sister? The waiter blinked. I think so. Was she wearing a blue bracelet? Sarah gasped. Yes. She wore it every day. The waiter nodded sadly. It was her. Arav felt ice in his veins. What happened to her? The waiter's voice dropped lower, almost like he feared someone was listening. They came here for dinner. Everything was normal. But then, a man walked in. A tall man with a scar on his cheek. The same man you saw outside tonight. Sarah's eyes filled with fear. What did he do? He didn't order anything. He didn't talk. He just watched them. The waiter swallowed hard. When they left the diner that night, her boyfriend disappeared. Vanished. No sound. No trace. Arav felt a chill through his spine. And her? She came back inside, shaking, crying, saying the man followed them. She said, he whispered something to her. Something only she could hear. What did he whisper? Sarah asked. The waiter shook his head. She refused to tell me. But she was never the same after that. Arav looked at Sarah's trembling hands. Does your sister still talk about that night? Sarah nodded weakly. Sometimes, she says she still dreams about him. She says he stands at the end of her bed and watches her. The lights flickered. The kitchen door creaked open on its own. The waiter jumped. He's here. Arav stood up. Where? The waiter pointed toward the back hallway. A shadow. It moved slowly, silently, like someone was waiting for them in the dark. Sarah grabbed Arav's arm. We need to go. But the waiter grabbed their hands. No, if you try to leave, he will follow. Arav looked toward the hallway again. The shadow grew taller. Something was coming. Something that had chased Sarah's sister for years. Something that had now found them. Their nightmare had only just begun. Arav stared at the long, dark hallway behind the kitchen. The shadow stood still, tall and silent, as if it were waiting for the perfect moment to move. The air inside the diner felt heavy, almost frozen. Even the ceiling fan seemed slower, like it was struggling to turn. Sarah held Arav's arm tightly. He could feel her trembling. The waiter's voice cracked as he whispered, Don't make noise. Don't draw his attention. Arav swallowed. Why is he here? What does he want? The waiter shook his head. No one knows. Some say he is not normal. Some people say he came back from prison. Others say he never left the diner at all. Sarah's eyes widened. What do you mean never left? The waiter looked around nervously. 3 years ago, after your sister's boyfriend disappeared, police came here. They questioned everyone, but they found nothing. They never found the man with the scar. Alive. Arav frowned. Alive? What do you mean? The waiter lowered his voice. The police found signs of a fight behind the diner. Blood. A broken bottle. A torn jacket. They believe the man with the scar was killed and buried somewhere near this place. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. But we saw him today. He's outside. He's here. The waiter nodded slowly. Yes, that is the problem. A soft sound came from the hallway. A footstep. Slow. Heavy. Sarah clutched Arav's hand. He's coming closer. Arav felt a cold sweat run down his back. He took a step backward, pulling Sarah behind him. The waiter moved toward the counter slowly, his hands shaking. Another footstep. Closer now. Arav whispered. We have to get out. The back door? Where is it? The waiter pointed toward the far left corner. There, but you must move quietly. Arav nodded and looked at Sarah. Stay behind me. Sarah nodded. Though her eyes were filled with fear, they moved slowly, step by step, keeping their eyes locked on the hallway. The shadow didn't move. Not yet. It just stood there like a warning. Suddenly, something metal dropped in the kitchen. A pan. The loud sound echoed through the diner. Sarah gasped. Arav's heart stopped. The shadow moved instantly. Fast it rushed forward a few steps, and stopped at the edge of the hallway light. They could now see part of him. A tall man. A scar running across his face. Eyes that looked empty. But angry, the waiter shouted, Run now! Arav grabbed Sarah's arm and dashed toward the back door. Chairs fell. The glasses on the table shook as they rushed past. The mysterious man stepped out of the hallway completely, his footsteps heavy, like the floor itself bent under them. Faster, Arav! Sarah screamed. They reached the back door, but when Arav tried to push it open, the door didn't move. Locked, AARAV banged on it. Open! Come on! The waiter ran to them from behind. Move. Let me try. He twisted the lock with shaky hands, but before he could open it, a loud thud came from behind them. The man with the scar had slammed his hand on the wall beside them, leaving a dark print. The lights flickered violently, like the entire diner was losing power. The waiter finally unlocked the door. Go, go. Arav and Sarah pushed it open and ran into the cold night air. The alley behind the diner was narrow and dark. Only a single street light glowed weakly at the far end. They ran without looking back. Their footsteps echoed. Their breaths were sharp. But then they heard it, another set of footsteps. Slow, heavy. Following them, Sarah looked over her shoulder and screamed, Arav, he's coming. Arav pulled her forward. Just run. Don't stop. The alley felt endless. Every shadow looked alive. Every sound felt dangerous. They reached the streetlight and stopped to catch their breath. Sarah leaned against the pole, shaking. Arav looked around desperately. The alley behind them was dark, empty, silent. He's gone, Arav whispered. But then Sarah's phone buzzed. A new message. She slowly lifted the screen. Arav asked, Who is it? Sarah's voice cracked as she read the words aloud. Don't run. I know where you're going next. Their fear deepened. The night was far from over, and the man with the scar was nowhere near finished. Arav stood under the weak streetlight, breathing hard, trying to understand what was happening. Sarah clutched her phone with shaking fingers. The message on the screen felt like ice pressing against their skin. Don't run. I know where you're going next. Sarah looked up at Arav. How does he know? How can he see us? He was behind us, right? Arav shook his head. No, that's the problem. He wasn't behind us. He disappeared. The alley remained dark and empty, like nothing had ever followed them. No footsteps now. No shadow, no figure. Only silence. Sarah stepped closer to him. Arav, this isn't normal. He can't be a normal person. Arav didn't want to admit it, but deep down, he felt the same fear. The man with the scar moved too quietly, appeared too suddenly, and vanished as if he melted into darkness. Arav looked around. We can't stay here. We need help, The police? Sarah asked. Arav hesitated. If this man is the same one who disappeared 3 years ago, the police might not believe us. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. My sister told me she saw him after that night. She said he followed her in her dreams, and sometimes even when she was awake. Arav took her hand gently. We will figure this out together. I promise. Sarah nodded weakly. They started walking toward the main road. Shops were closed, streets were empty, and only the distant noise of cars echoed from far away. The night felt colder than before, like someone had turned down the temperature around them. Arav spotted a small shop with a dim light inside. Let's go there and ask for help. But just as they reached the shop door, a sudden scream echoed from behind them. Sarah gasped. Arav spun around. The scream came from the diner's direction. It's the waiter, Sarah whispered. He must still be inside. Arav hesitated. Every part of him wanted to run away, but something pulled him back. The waiter had tried to protect them. He couldn't leave him behind, Arav. No, Sarah snapped. We can't go back. Arav looked into her frightened eyes. He helped us. He warned us. I can't leave him. Sarah grabbed his arm tightly. You don't understand? My sister said the moment you go back, he traps you. Arav froze. He, the man with the scar. Yes, she whispered. She said he waits for people to return. Arav felt his heart racing. He turned toward the diner again. The scream had already faded. The building looked dark and lifeless from afar. Still, he couldn't ignore it. I'll be careful, he said softly. No, Sarah cried. I'm coming too. Arav shook his head. No, stay here. If something happens to me, you can run and call for help. Were Sarah's eyes filled with fear? Arav, please don't leave me. He gently touched her shoulder. I won't if you come with me. But if you're scared, stay by the shop. It's safer. Sarah took a deep breath and wiped her tears. I'm not letting you go alone. Arav nodded. They slowly walked back toward the diner. Following the dark alley once again, when they reached the back door, they found it wide open. Gently swinging in the wind, Arav whispered, he was here. Recently, Sarah squeezed his hand. They stepped inside. The diner was darker than before. Chairs were flipped. Plates were scattered. The ceiling fan spun slowly, making a soft clicking sound. Arav, whispered waiter. Are you here? No answer. Sarah's breath shook. Arav. Look. Behind the counter, on the floor, something moved. They rushed forward, and there lay the waiter. Injured, holding his stomach, blood on his shirt. Arav knelt beside him. What happened? The waiter lifted a shaky hand and pointed to the wall. He's back. He's angry. Why? Arav asked. The waiter's voice faded. He thinks. You were the one who betrayed him? Arav froze. What? I don't even know him. The waiter shook his head. Someone who looks like you. Someone he hates. Deeply. Before Arav could ask more, a loud creak echoed behind them. The hallway door opened. The man with the scar stepped out, staring at Arav with burning rage in his cold, empty eyes. He finally spoke, his voice low and rough. I've waited 3 years. For you. For a moment, the whole diner felt frozen in time. Arav stared at the scarred man, who now stood in the hallway doorway. His tall shadow stretched across the floor like a long, dark arm reaching toward them. The waiter lay weakly on the ground, whispering for help. Sarah held Arav's arm so tightly her nails dug into his skin. The scarred man's voice echoed again, low and broken. I waited. 3 years. For you. Arav shook his head slowly. I don't know you. I've never seen you before.
Ow.
The man stepped forward. One heavy step, then another. The old wooden floor groaned under his boots. You think I don't remember? He growled. You think changing your life, changing your clothes, changing your face in photos will fool me? Arav blinked. What are you talking about? Sarah whispered. Arav. He thinks you're someone else. But the scarred man wasn't listening. He pointed at Arav with a trembling finger. "You took everything from me. My freedom, my life. And you thought I died that night." The waiter's breath grew weak. "Run, Arav. He's mixing you with another man. He's not thinking clearly." Arav took a small step backward. "Sir, please. Listen, I am not the person you're looking for." The scarred man stopped walking. He tilted his head. As if trying to understand Arof's voice, his eyes twitched. Then suddenly he laughed. A slow, deep, broken laugh. "Not you," he said. "Then why did your face show up in every nightmare? Why did I see you standing by the alley?" "You running from me?" Arav's voice cracked. "You saw someone who looked like me." "Not me." The scarred man lifted his hand and touched the deep scar on his cheek. "Your friend gave me this," he whispered. "Your friend? Who abandoned your girl's sister that night? You look like him. You sound like him. You even walk like him." Sarah suddenly gasped. "Arav? My sister said the man who disappeared that night looked like you? His hairstyle, his height, his build." Arav felt the truth hit him like a punch. Her sister's boyfriend, the one who vanished, was his look-alike. A stranger who had ruined everything. And Arav was paying for it. The scarred man stepped closer. "Tonight, I finish what started 3 years ago." Arav pulled Sarah behind him. "Stay back." The scarred man lunged forward, but at the last second Arav grabbed a fallen chair and blocked the attack. The man stumbled, hitting the counter hard. The lights flickered again, buzzing loudly. Sarah screamed, "Arav, run!" He didn't want to run. He wanted to end this. But the scarred man recovered quickly. He grabbed a broken table leg and charged at them. Arav and Sarah dashed toward the front door. The waiter managed to whisper, "Go, go." Arav slammed into the locked door, pushing it with all his strength. It wouldn't open. The scarred man's footsteps grew louder behind them. Sarah yelled, "Arav, the window." Together, they ran to the window near their first table. Arav grabbed a heavy plate and smashed it against the glass. It cracked. He hit it again, and the window finally shattered. "Jump," he shouted. Sarah climbed through first, scraping her arm on the glass, but landing safely outside. Arav followed, pulling himself out just as the scarred man reached the window. Outside, Sarah helped Arav up. The scarred man stared at them through the broken glass. "Smiling, run," Arav shouted. They sprinted down the street, their breaths sharp, their hearts pounding. A police car turned the corner at the same moment. Sarah waved frantically. "Help! He's trying to kill us!" The police braked hard as Arav and Sarah collapsed near the car. 2 officers stepped out and ran toward the diner. Inside the diner, the scarred man didn't run. He didn't hide. He simply stood in the broken window frame, staring at Arav with burning eyes as the officers approached. He raised his hands slowly, still smiling. One officer shouted, "Drop the weapon." But instead of attacking, the scarred man whispered only one sentence while looking directly at Arav. "This isn't over. Not for you." Police arrested him, pulling him away. But his eyes never left Arav. Sarah held Arav's hand tightly. "It's over, Arav. Right?" Arav looked at the empty street, the broken diner, the cold night sky. He wasn't sure, because even far away, he could still feel the scarred man's gaze, and the promise that the nightmare wasn't finished yet.